Real camping horror stories that actually happened. It begins with silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, pressing against your skin, whispering against your ears. That night in the woods, four friends thought they were stepping into nature's peace. They had no idea they were trespassing into something far older, something that had been waiting in the dark for centuries. They arrived late in the evening, carrying lanterns and backpacks, laughing louder than the forest allowed. The trees stood like black spires, towering into the sky, their branches clawing against one another in the cold wind. As they hiked toward their campsite, their voices echoed unnaturally, as though someone else was repeating them just a step behind. When they stopped talking, the echoes didn't stop. They kept going, faint and delayed, as if mocking them from a distance. The campsite was nothing more than a clearing in the woods, half swallowed by shadows. The ground was uneven, the air smelled of wet soil and something faintly metallic. One of them joked that it smelled like blood, and the others laughed uneasily. The forest swallowed the sound immediately. By midnight, the fire was built. Flames flickered, casting long shadows across the trees. But the shadows didn't behave as they should. They seemed too tall, too thin, bending unnaturally against the shapes of their bodies. At first they ignored it. Firelight plays tricks on the eyes, they told themselves. But deep down they all knew something was wrong. That was when the laughter began. Not theirs, something else's. From the tree line, faint and breathless, came a sound like someone trying not to laugh. A chuckle, stifled, playful. They turned their flashlights into the woods, but the beams cut through nothing. Just darkness. One of the friends, Eric, called out, "Who's there?" The laughter stopped. Silence poured back in, heavier now, thicker. They tried to brush it off. They told more stories, louder this time, trying to fill the air with something human. But the forest wasn't done. Soon, small stones began landing near the fire. First one, then another, then a third. Each one falling closer to their circle. Probably animals, someone whispered. But the stones weren't random. They landed in rhythm, in patterns, as though someone were playing a game. When they decided to go to bed, the fire had burned low. The forest was ink black, the kind of dark that makes you feel blind even with your eyes open. Inside their tents, the silence was unbearable. They could hear each other breathing. They could also hear something else, breathing that wasn't theirs. Deep, ragged, animalistic. At first it was outside. Then, slowly, impossibly, it seemed to move between their tents. Heavy footsteps pressed into the soil, circling them, dragging slowly. The air grew colder. Their lanterns flickered. Suddenly, one of them, Rachel, let out a muffled scream. She whispered that she felt fingers press against the fabric of her tent, sliding down, slow, deliberate, stopping just at the zipper. She clutched her sleeping bag, praying it wouldn't move. They lay frozen until dawn. Not one of them dared to unzip their tents. And then, when the first rays of light broke through the trees, they finally crawled out. The clearing was different. The fire pit had been dismantled, the ashes smeared across the ground in strange, spiraling patterns. Around their tents, pressed deep into the soil, were footprints. Not animal. Not human. Something in between. Long, thin, with too many toes. They left everything behind and ran. But the forest wasn't finished. As they fled, panting, hearts racing, they swore they could hear footsteps chasing them just out of sight. And behind those footsteps, the laughter returned. Louder this time. Closer. And when they finally broke free of the tree line, when the daylight poured over them and the world returned to normal, they looked back only once. The forest stood silent, calm, unmoving. But in the shadow of the trees, something was still standing there. Watching. Waiting. They thought they had escaped. They thought wrong. Because when night falls again, when they're alone, lying in their homes, far from the woods, each one still hears it. That same breathless laughter, whispering from the dark corners of their rooms. The forest never let them go. And neither will I. They thought running would save them. But nightmares don't live in the forest alone. Nightmares follow. For weeks, the friends tried to forget. They didn't speak about what they saw. They didn't want to. Each of them convinced themselves it was just fear, exhaustion, imagination. But at night, when the lights dimmed, when the world was silent, they each felt it. The cold breath. The laughter. The sense that someone was standing in the corner of their rooms, watching. Rachel was the first to break. She called the others at 2 a.m, sobbing. She said she woke to find her tent set up in her bedroom. Perfectly pitched, the same one she left behind in the woods. Its zipper was half open, swaying gently as though someone had just crawled out. When she looked inside, it was empty. But the soil, wet, black, fresh, was spread across her carpet. Eric didn't believe her. He laughed it off, trying to sound brave. But later that same week he called them, whispering frantically. He said he was hearing the forest. Not outside. Not on the phone. Inside his apartment. He swore the sound of wind through branches echoed from his closet. He opened it and there was nothing, except a stone. One of the same stones that had been thrown into their campfire circle. By the third week, none of them were sleeping. All of them admitted to hearing the same thing, the laughter. Sometimes faint, sometimes right by their ears. And it always came from the shadows. One night, they gathered at Mark's house, desperate to stay together. Safety in numbers, they thought. They turned on every light, locked every door, and swore they wouldn't let fear get to them. But fear doesn't need an invitation. At midnight, the lights flickered. Just once. A warning. Then again. Longer this time. The television turned on by itself. Static filled the screen. At first, nothing but snow and hiss. Then shapes. The four of them standing together in Mark's living room. Except it wasn't now. It was them in the forest. Except not quite. Their faces were wrong. Distorted. Stretched too thin, their smiles too wide, their eyes too dark. The screen cut to black. The laughter filled the house. Panic set in. Rachel screamed. Eric grabbed the remote, smashing the television off, but the laughter didn't stop. It echoed through the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Closer. Surrounding them. Then came the footsteps. Heavy. Dragging. From the kitchen, the hallway, the stairwell. As if something was coming from every direction. Mark grabbed a baseball bat. His hands trembled so badly he could barely hold it. "It's just in our heads," he whispered, though his voice betrayed him. The laughter stopped. Silence fell. And then from the hallway the zipper sound. Slow. Deliberate. The exact sound of a tent being opened. They froze. None of them moved. None of them breathed. From the dark hallway, something stepped into the light. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was tall, impossibly thin, its skin gray and stretched like wet paper. Its limbs bent in ways they shouldn't bend, too many joints, too many fingers. And its face, if you could call it that, was only a shadow. But from within that shadow came teeth. Teeth that didn't stop. Rows upon rows that seemed to stretch forever. It stepped forward. The lights flickered again. And in that strobing glow, its form shifted, twisting, breaking, reforming. One moment it was the tall figure. The next it was them. Rachel's face. Eric's face. Mark's face. Their own bodies staring back at them, smiling with those endless teeth. The friends backed away, cornered. Their breaths came in gasps, shallow and fast. The laughter returned, but this time it came from their own mouths. They could hear themselves laughing, but they weren't. The sound poured from their throats, uncontrolled, hideous. The thing stepped closer. Its shadow stretched across the floor, climbing up their legs, crawling up their bodies. Cold seeped into their bones. Their vision blurred. The house tilted, the walls bending as though reality itself was cracking. Then darkness. When Rachel opened her eyes, she was back in the forest. The others were there too. The tents, the fire, the spiraling ash. Exactly as it had been that night. Except this time there was no escape. The forest had swallowed them whole. They screamed, but their screams never left the trees. They echoed, warped, twisted into laughter. And somewhere in that laughter was another voice. Ancient. Endless. Whispering something only they could hear. But you hear it too, don't you? The breath behind your ear. The shadow that doesn't match your body. You feel it right now, crawling along your spine. Because this story isn't just theirs anymore. It's yours. And when you close your eyes tonight, you'll hear it. That zipper sound. That laughter. And you'll know it's found you. You're not alone anymore. And now, neither am I.